Snyder.
7 o'clock, I think we can start, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So first off, this meeting is recorded. And we do not have, just to let you know, we do not have the minutes because they weren't ready in time. We only had a week in between. And it's been a little crazy, and I'll explain later what else is going on. But let me take attendance quickly. Norm,
Here.
Mike Coombs,
Here.
Malcolm,
Here.
Mike DeBay,
Here.
Scotty's away, Karen is here, Deb,
Here.
Eric,
Here.
and Paul.
I'm here.
Yep, no Ken and no Rick. Okay, and we have guests I'm looking at on here, Scott Snyder Perouse, Mike Doherty, Jerry Patria, and Daryl Sack, correct? Got everybody?
Yes.
Anybody else that I missed?
Hi, Deb.
All right, I think we got everybody. Okay, so we can start. Concom update, anything new from the last meeting, or are you still, or haven't you had anything in between, Norm?
Unfortunately, we didn't
There
have a
hasn't-
meeting last Monday.
Okay,
We couldn't get a quorum together, so our
Yeah,
next
we
one,
have-
our next one will be this Monday coming.
I
okay,
do have a little update. I did contact the chief of police about getting 4 of the registrations on the LPP form to identify the owner. And he responded, and then I had a phone call with him that saying that he cannot provide that information.
okay. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
So
Okay. All right, master plan, anything from new since the last time or no?
no new.
Okay, no new. That's good. We can move right along. How about CRC update? Do we have anything? Deb, since Michelle's not here.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh,
Scott. Scott's the
Sorry,
VP.
I'm just eating. I'm
He's the
trying to
VP.
get
okay,
I'm Scott Snyder Perouse, Vice President of the CRC.
okay,
We got our membership drive starting. We just had a meeting about it the other week, and that's coming out within the next couple of weeks. We're gonna have online options. Our first meeting of the month is gonna be April 12th, and we got Colin Mole, the first selectman from Suffield, is gonna be there, and Doug Moglen should be there as well. It's going to be both online and in person at the Brass Rail. Again, that's April 12th. And we're looking forward to seeing new people there. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on right now.
okay.
Perfect.
Any public comment? I missed that. Anybody? Hearing none, seeing none. No public comment. Okay, so we can move right on to the first one is 141 Congamon Road, continuation from the meetings that have occurred since our last one. There was a planning board hearing and a select board session on that was what, Tuesday, this past Tuesday. So just in kind of brief summary, planning board had a 3:15 meeting and another one on 3:22. And at that one, Eric, Deb, and I attended that. And we had requested that they consider reconsidering, thank you, reconsidering their vote. They did have a motion to reconsider, and it failed. It was 4 against, 1 for. And so the articles, what they had for the special permit stands. The only thing is that it does not become effective until, I believe it's April 6th. Is that correct, Mike Doherty?
You're muted, Mike.
I don't think, he said give him 10 minutes, so. I
Oh,
don't
he's
know.
back.
No, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm running between various places. Do you know what day it was clocked, Dick? What the clerks?
The Yeah, I've got, actually, it was in the last package.
So it's 20 days. So whatever that, what do we do it
Okay,
on?
plus 20.
Probably
T
clocked,
plus 20. Okay,
it was probably clocked on the 16th or 17th. And
yeah. I think it's either the 4th or the 5th that it runs out.
so you got, yeah,
Um,
20.
So at any rate, all we have for options right now, we can go down what our feelings are, but just keep this in mind. Whatever we come up with, the only option we have right now, I believe, is an appeal, since the reconsideration vote failed. Is that correct, as you would understand it, Mike? Because we've never done this before.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, all right. So we can go down, like I said, and also at the select board meeting, Eric, Deb and myself attended that via Zoom and spoke about some of the issues. And I would say at that, Mr. Eggleston pleaded his case to seeking use of the right of way for parking now, so he could apply for the marina permit at the same time as he applies for the transient dock permit. So you have one, covers both. I believe, and again, correct me if you think I'm erring on this, Mike Doherty, that Doug Moglen explained that wasn't going to happen in the time frame to get it into the upcoming annual town meeting, because it had to go through our town council, warrant article prepared, and there's a whole bunch of other things and that had to be done prior to. So they basically, the way Doug Moglen put it was, that was not reality.
And
Yeah.
Dick, am I correct also that if the documentation that you found turns out that the
You're
lawyers.
breaking up.
Oh, can you hear me? Can you
Yep.
hear me? No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, if the lawyers look at the documentation you found and say, what, actually not the town's property, that's the state's property,
That's
then
correct.
town meeting doesn't have anything to do with it, because the state would have to allow that easement at that point.
And that's correct, because the state actually did a taking back in 1947. They took 3 parcels to kind of straighten that curve out, ease the curve, increase the radius of the curve, basically. So they took from the north side of the road, the Saunders side, and they took from the south side of the road where Krabby Joe's is. And to ease that curve, because if you look at what it was originally when it was a county road, it was kind of a hairpin turn in there, very dangerous.
So I think the long and the short of it for us, this is kind of my summary of what I've heard, and tell me whether you agree or not. The planning board gave approval for something. That approval, one element is it allowed 20 marina docking slips, not 40, cut that in half, probably due to parking. And also said, okay, but all of this is contingent on you getting an easement along the road for these additional parking spots. And that was sort of what they had allowed. And so for Mr. Eggleston to continue, he needs to continue with that path. He needs an easement for that space, whoever that comes from, either from the town or the state, depending on who owns the land.
Right.
If it's the town, it has to go through town meeting. If it's the state, it's some other process. If, on the other hand, he abandons the 20-spot marina, then he doesn't need that easement, because he doesn't need those parking spaces in order to continue with the restaurant process. And then he could apply for a Chapter 91 license for the transient docks he needs to support the restaurant business and continue on with the restaurant restoration.
Correct.
Okay.
And
And
I would add, Eric, that as part of that taking, by the way, it was actually it was a payment
Right,
from the
$1.
state, $1 to each of them. So
Right.
they each got a whole dollar for their land.
and then my understanding also, now that I got a little bit more educated, thanks Mike Doherty, is that the planning board, focuses their decision, not the only thing, but they focus their decision on land use. So they kind of said, okay, this is okay if you can get this easement. And so I'm not sure that us going back to the planning board for a reconsideration, I don't know how effective that'll be, because the planning board, I think, was making their decision not based on a discussion of lake overcrowding or what have you, but it was based on a discussion of the merits of the physical plan. And you need this many parking spaces and all that. And so they were saying, look, based on the merits of that physical plan for the land, we're okay with this plan if you get an easement to cover these spaces. And if you don't have an easement to cover these spaces, then either you can't have the marina or you have to have less people in the restaurant.
Right. And we cannot seek a second reconsideration. And
Right.
correct me if I've erred on that one, Mike. It was one and done, correct?
I think so, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
but I
believe
did have
it
one-
had to be the next meeting from when you had the vote, is the way I understand it works. So we would not be seeking, we can't go that route, and I'm not sure it's even applicable, after
Right.
what you said, Eric.
Right. And the other thing that happened at the select board meeting was a number of things. Mr. Eggleston asked some good questions. It was a great discussion. But one of the things that the select board made clear to him is any Chapter 91 license which he needs to obtain in order to put any docks there, LMC has standing in that discussion. So does town, so do other folks, but LMC in particular has standing in that process and standing in that discussion. So if he proceeds, to look for a Chapter 91 license, for docks that include a marina, we can oppose that and bring up the data and what have you.
Right.
I think when we discussed it before, I'm not sure we voted on it, but I think the feeling was if he was looking just for the transient docks, that I think LMC, we probably would not oppose that.
We were good with that, Eric.
We were good with that, absolutely were.
It's just if he wanted to add a marina, similarly to what was done years ago with the Chapter 91 license with what's now
Louise.
Walk on the Water.
Right.
There was Chapter 91 license. The state asked us, we said, okay, but not okay for a marina. The state agreed and put in the restrictions that it's only for transient docks. You can't rent it out as a marina space.
Correct.
And that's exactly what the state put into that Chapter 91 license. And so they would do I'm presuming, that's exactly how it played out that time. That's probably exactly how it would play out this time.
And the other thing that we did briefly touch on was we support the transient dock or docks, depending on how it's done. And I use that word docks because one of the things that we want to see is that they do not extend 150 feet out into the lake, that he could have the equivalent, say 275 footers or a T or an L that
Right.
gives the same capacity, just not 150 feet out into the lake.
Right. So 75-foot docks and keep them south.
Yes,
Don't bring them up on the northern end of the property where they might, where they start to impede the travel in and out of the tunnel space. Keep them more towards the south.
right. As we pointed out a few times, is we already have that issue at the culvert that goes between North and Middle Ponds.
Right.
Where that marina is located, because it is so tight. There's just no room for people to jockey around.
Right.
So anyway, does anybody else have any comments on that or any questions? Whether it's our guests that are online or any members? Any other further comments on it?
And clarify one thing on it, Dick, as
Yes.
far as the way I understand, and I don't right at the moment have the decision in front of me, but I just want to at least give you the conceptual idea of how I understood it, which is this. We, as far as the decision-making process, I think there's probably a couple of decisions we made. One is we decided we thought it was appropriate to have 20 docks or 20 rental slips, with the caveat that it was still going to be going through the 91 license process. And, that was probably a decision that is going to get reviewed by people who know a lot more than us. But there was nothing, we thought in the balance that it was appropriate, but again, deferred. Secondly, our primary focus was on parking. And so to me, it is a zero-sum game, right? Which is, they have X amount of spots, they have a calculation to make for the restaurant that's in the bylaw. And they have a calculation to make for the marina parking, which we put in the decision. And so it's just math. And, my opinion is that it's not that they, and if it says it, I guess we have to look at it. I don't have the decision, but it's not so much that they need to get the easement necessarily before utilizing the marina. If they had this Chapter 91 license, it is they need parking. And so if they chose to not open the restaurant, right, they would have.
Yeah, right. Then they could have a marina.
So, I just want to make sure that that's, I look at it really as just a math problem at that point in time.
Right, right. And I think you had made that clear that it's a, either you've got X number of spaces, you can
Period.
either use them for marina or you can use them for restaurant, but the aggregate is the aggregate. If you got
Correct.
less spaces, then you either have less marina or less restaurant.
Correct. And then the last thing is, and I do remember putting it in there, and if we need to change it, I guess we need to change it somewhere down the line, and we got to figure out that process. But I think I used the word easement. That was probably something that I shouldn't have committed to because I don't know the process. I think over the last week or two, there's been discussions about what is needed, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't want to, because I don't know the answer to it, and I haven't heard a definitive answer. I wouldn't be so definitive that an easement from town meeting is needed. I just don't know the answer to that. That seems likely, but I don't know the answer. There was a discussion about the motocross, right? And how town land is given to the motocross to use. And I think that was done
by a vote.
correct. And so that wasn't done at town meeting, that was done at a license. And so I just, and I know nothing about that process. So I don't want that to be misrepresented if I suggested it in any way. And certainly by putting in the word easement, we may have, but that
just for your information, is that a right of way is different from use of land via a license, in that the right of way is owned by the public is the key word there, and has other certain attributes that require, like for instance, when we go working on a road or and we have to do a taking or anything, or for instance, we also got land for a water pump station and a sewer pump station. And while we did them up front, through the approval of the owners of said land for the town, they had to go to town vote as we will have to do with some drainage work we're doing on Mort Vining Road. The owner of the property said, okay, but we have to go for town vote to affirm it legally. So you can attack it a couple different ways, but it ultimately goes to the town voter for approval.
Here's what I'd say about that, Dick, and I don't mean this, in any way offensively and all, but that's your position. And I don't know the answer either, and I'm an attorney. I just don't do that type of law, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to be the attorney who makes that
That's correct.
decision about what's
That's
needed.
correct. That's
And
correct.
I just want to make sure that that's clear, that I know your position, and it's not an unreasonable position by any stretch of the imagination. I
But
don't know.
I think the message here is that we were trying to get across is that before anybody, whether it be planning board or lake management or any other group, we were trying to get that addressed legally so that everybody's going down the right path. And that's, rather than you say, you don't want to take something back. You always want to know what the real position is. And if we can't give it away, then you can't offer it. You don't want to offer it. You don't want to have to take it back.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm not, that's certainly a fair way to go. I just, in the world that I function in, we always deal with risk calculations, right? And that's how I looked at it. And so, that was one of the conditions that was added onto it. And whether he gets it or not, that's, that's a risk to be taken, and that's how I've always looked at it.
Right, and then beyond that, since this is the lake management meeting and we're talking really about the lake, beyond that, so he would need to get enough spaces to be able to do what he wants to do. And then he needs a Chapter 91 license for either transient dock or marina docks would require a Chapter 91 license because it's commercial use. And lake management will have standing in that process. And if he's going for marina docks, lake management will oppose that. And we'd have to vote on it, but I believe we will. And we would bring forth data that we have in multiple studies and can bring in, limnologist who's actually a very famous limnologist who, has seen lakes all over the place, who can bring up the same stuff. I checked with him on the studies that Mike DeBay found, and he said, yep, those are the right studies. Yes. Yep, that's the right number. And, I think we'll be able to make a pretty strong case if we have to. We were just hoping not to have to get there. And unfortunately, if Mr. Eggleston wants to stick with this, it's going to make his process much longer than it could have been.
Right.
Because today, if he dropped trying to get the easement, he could proceed with the Chapter 91 license for the transient docks immediately.
He can, Mike, he can
Move that
opt
whole
to,
thing along immediately.
Mike, he can opt to do that at any time, right? Because that doesn't violate your, it's something less than what you've given him. So he would be able to do that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So-
And if he does that, he could do that immediately. move it
Tomorrow.
along.
Right.
Right. And
And we said that at the select board meeting, and Doug Moglen said that too. He offered that, if you want to go ahead where you don't need to worry about the parking on a right of way and get the transient docks, go ahead. And we absolutely support that. The only thing, I don't know, again, Mike Doherty, whether, can you folks urge him, if he's gonna go have RLA do the dock design, detail it, that he works on having something that is not greater than 75 feet, whether it's an L, a T, or 2 individual docks, we don't care.
yeah,
Put them on the southern end.
I think two concerns that Dick brought up when he and I were talking about this privately, one is what we brought up here, don't go more than 75 feet. 2 is, I'm not sure Mr. Eggleston is always getting great advice from people. One thing he may or may not be aware of is his docks have to be removable. And there's all kinds of designs for docks. And if he goes off and designs docks that can't be removed or can't be removed on his property, he's going to have a problem because his Chapter 91 license isn't going to let him do it. And it's really a shame if he just gets bad advice, winds up spending a bunch of money, and then he's sitting there getting fined for not removing docks.
Excellent point.
Yeah, I don't know how to insert this into the process for him. You know, I think everybody on this committee would like to see that restaurant reopen and be a vibrant
Yes.
place and going. I mean, it's been a great thing on the lake for so many years. We would love to see it operating again. Don't really want to see this guy, you know, take a beating trying to do it. You know, if he'd talk to us, we could tell him some things and save him a bunch of pain.
And money. You know, you don't want to go down a path with engineers and pay for a design that you can't use.
Right.
I mean, my understanding from the hearing is that he's already bought some docks, so that ship may have already, you know, left the station.
Failed.
As a
Yeah,
confusing.
so
way of-
So
I don't know.
I hope he bought ones that he can remove every year because by law he has to.
Correct, and that's fair. I mean, again, you know, with everything that I said about the way I look at things, which is risk management, right? And that's what I do. You know, if I was in your shoes, and again, this is simply my personal opinion, I'd be assessing the risk that he may potentially get a Chapter 91 license, and they may not agree with you as to the way that those docks go. And if I was you, I'd be saying to myself, can we live with 20 rental slips if the docks are configured in a better way? And they're removable and this and that. And there's going to be no issues because of, you know, those docks. That's what I would do. But again, I'm not you guys, and I don't live on the lakes, and you guys have your opinion. I'm just saying.
So the removability is not us. That's a law. We don't have.
No. I'm just talking about
the 75-foot length. That's also written in. He doesn't get to vary that one.
Where's that written though? But where's that? But where's that written? Because if that was written down somewhere as a regulation or law, I would think it would have been brought to the planning board's attention in that manner. It was simply, you thought that it had to be 150 because you thought if it was, or you thought it had to be 75 because if it was 150, it would interfere with, you know.
There's not only that, but the Chapter 91, Dick, is it the Chapter 91 that limits us to 75-foot length?
The agreement for the local permitting program and for
LPP.
future docks, 75 feet maximum. And,
Okay, so that's LPP.
and that was held also with Louis B's.
So that includes, and again, I don't know the process, so I'm
And
trying to understand it, but is it an impossibility that he would be able to put in a 76-foot dock in that location?
No, that's basically it's just a barrier. It's not that it can't be done, it's just a barrier. So that would be, in other words, when he's going through the process for Chapter 91 license and they're checking boxes, there'd be a box for, 75 feet or shorter, and that box isn't checked. And so then you're going to have to make an argument for why you can't live with 75 feet, which is what everybody on the lake lives with. That's what the regulation says, but you somehow can't live with that.
And just to explain that, Saunders docks are predate all the zoning,
Their grandfather.
their grandfather.
So,
Okay.
so Michael, I appreciate, so what you're saying is if we back off and just let him have the marina, then he'll listen to us about other stuff and things will go nicer. Well, if he drops the marina, he can proceed very quickly. We're
Right.
not going to drop the no marina because we believe very strongly it is bad for the lake and bad for safety on the lake. We think it is a very bad idea. I hope we've been abundantly clear. We feel it's an extremely bad idea. We will fight it vociferously.
No, and that's,
Happened before.
again,
There was a chapter 91 license applied for before and granted. And that chapter 91 license from Boston said you can't rent dock spaces. That was one of the stipulations in that chapter 91 license.
Oh, and by the
So
way,
if he's thinking that Massachusetts, oh, they'll give it to me. Somebody tried before and they didn't give it to him.
yeah, he never did have a chapter 91 license for the transient docks that were there.
Oh, you mean the previous owner?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
those were just pre-existing.
they were illegal. They had to
Yeah,
be
they might have
removed.
been
and They were.
illegal.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, not Louis, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they might have just been illegal. So.
And the other thing to keep in mind, Mike, is that in the future, chapter 91 license is very, 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 and I can't underline those varies enough, is specific in configuration. If you alter the configuration in any way, you have to go for a revision to the chapter 91 license, which takes you through a lot of hoops and a lot of expense. One cannot just say, well, I've got a chapter 91 license. It was shown in an H and now I'm going to make it in a Q. You know, you got to do what you signed up for, and you can't change it.
You get what he's saying, Mike?
Yeah, no, and again, it's perfectly fair, and you guys can take that position and hardline it, and that's fine. But again,
That's not our position. That's DEP regs.
No, he's just meaning our position that we
Okay.
believe that the marina is bad for lake safety and shouldn't be,
Yeah.
and we should not add marinas to the lake. Right.
correct.
Yep.
And again, this is,
You know,
and
and where
I'm
would it
telling you this
stop?
only
Where
because
would
you
it
guys.
stop? You let another one, then another, at some point in time, it's like, oh, in other words, if you argue, well, there's already so many boats, what's another 20? Well, then what's another 20 after that? And what's another 20 after that? And what's another 20? In other words, what's to stop multiple marinas from opening up all over the lake?
I would
Yeah.
think that where else are we putting marinas?
Well, there are other people who would like to put marinas in other places. We're
Where?
dealing with regularly.
Where do they
Well,
have
for
a
example, over, down at Louis V's, that is exactly what that person wanted to do.
Okay, so let me just tell you this. As long as she's the owner there and I'm on the planning board, I'm sure as hell not voting for it. She's been a problem since every single year that I've been on the planning board. So,
Okay.
that's not, I'm not going to grant a marina
But
to someone.
But there will be others. And,
Right.
and you're saying, okay, so her personally, because she's been fine. So now somebody else buys the product. Ken Eggleston buys it from her and he wants to open a marina there. Is that okay? How about
So
another place? I don't
Or
care.
brass
I mean,
rail.
At what point in
Brass
time
rail.
do you go, at what point in time do you go, no, we're not going to allow more marinas on the lake. The lake is overburdened with boats. It's unsafe. We're not going to allow more marinas. We're saying we're at that point. We've passed that point. Don't add another one. And one of the things, if you add this one, how do you then deny the next one?
Right.
How do you deny the one after that? Because by saying okay to this one, you're saying, look, there's so many boats, what's another 20? Okay, fine. Then what's 20 after that? And 20 after that? Because that argument, the more boats there are, the less of an issue it is to add 20 more.
I
Deb
think
would
we
like to
made our
speak.
point.
I think
Yep.
so, Deb,
Good.
you're right. I think we have. I think we just need to
Yes.
figure out exactly what we're
Yeah.
doing after this, guys, and how
Yeah.
we're going to address it.
All right. Do we want a vote? Do we want to have a vote about, I thought we did it at a previous meeting, but a vote that do not support a marina in any way, shape or form?
Well, I don't think we have to have that vote, but
Okay. We can move on.
I have one question.
Yes,
At the last meeting, we addressed the length of the boats that would be parked there.
yeah.
Did that ever get clarified?
I think you have a good point because the fingers that are on there are not adequate to properly restrain boats that are 20 feet long. Even the transient ones, you're gonna have lots of people are gonna come up that have party boats, have pontoons. And they are typically 20, 23, 25 feet long. You can't tie them up to a 10-foot spur.
Right.
So,
One of the plans I had seen, they shortened the length on the outbound dock, but that would be ineffective with the 25-foot boat parked on it.
right. So, Mike Doherty, should we, and we don't want to step where we shouldn't, should we communicate anything with Mr. Eggleston directly, or go through you and you guys communicate some of these concerns?
Again, I'll say it again. I think you should talk to them and even if it's just to provide information to him, and I would couch it in, more objective things. That so that he knows about the removability and things like that, just so he knows that.
Try and steer him in the right path so that he doesn't wind up with, like you say, docks that you can't use. Then you've spent money that you throw away.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly give him that information. And again, if it's objective facts, I think that's useful for him. But otherwise, It doesn't sound like you guys have any desire to have a discussion with them and try to figure out if there's a happy, not even, or unhappy on both sides, middle ground, I suppose, that you guys could, consent to. It doesn't sound like there's any wiggle room there. So I'm not sure having that discussion is going to lead anywhere. But, I'll leave it up to you as to whether you want to or not.
I'd rather help him with the transient docks.
Right. Yeah, we'd be very happy to help him get through the Chapter 91 license as quickly as possible with transient docks. In other words, help him to make sure that he's got a design that
It's gonna fly.
The Chapter 91 process is likely to rubber stamp and go, yep, you hit all the boxes. We'd be
Yes.
very happy to help him with that.
Agree.
Perhaps a letter with bullet points would be the best way to go.
We could do that.
Sounds good.
I can put that
I'm
together.
sure, and I don't know what information is out there for him. You can certainly check with John Goddard, but I'm sure if you sent it over to Levesque's office, it would get to him as well. So, you can probably send it either way.
We've got a couple of other members of the public here. I wondered if anybody was itching to make a comment because we've been going at it.
I have a quick question. How of the slips or the docks that are at Crappy Joe's, how many rows of docks would this amount to? And how far south? Because if I remember right, paddling on South Pond, it's not too far aft of Crappy Joe's. There's a lot of lily pads. I don't know, private property, I thought. But
And you can't put the docks in the lily pads.
so is that a restricted area? Is that for the
That
wildlife?
becomes the Conservation Commission issue, really. It has happened before. I can tell you there's one in North Pond where they allowed a Chapter 91 license to bridge the lily pads and basically go up, over, down into the deeper water. And that was approved by Concom and by DEP, Chapter 91 license.
Basically, how many rows of docks?
I don't know what the latest design was. Because it's a good question, but it goes into the how long are they question.
Right.
And in other words, he can get, if he wants 20 transient spots, then how many things he needs sticking out depends on how long those things are.
Or you put an L in,
Right. And so I don't know what his latest design is. It's a very good question. It's just, we don't know what the latest design is. And I don't think we've seen a design for just transient docks.
So Daryl, I can just tell you from my perspective, my understanding is if you, I guess, divide,
Yeah, I can't really eyeball 75 feet. I might be,
no, but the way it is on the site plan that is with the planning board, and this is completely to the chapter 91 license process and how they change it because they're responsible for, these docks. But right now on the site plan, you have two 150-foot docks that would hold 20 boats each. One is transient, one is for rentals. They extend out on the to the what is that, to the
southwest.
Away from what is
Southeast.
so they were originally proposing 3, we took away the one that's closest to the culvert. So the 2 remaining are the ones that are farthest away from that culvert going through.
Mhm.
That's how it
It's
stands.
still 150 feet long.
Correct, but totally subject to the chapter 91 license process.
Sure,
That's
of course.
on the planning board.
Sure, right, because the planning board's not the one who licenses docks. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's at some point I have to put in a site plan that reflects final conditions, and that's going to be subject to the chapter 91 license process.
Sure.
Thank you. Question answered. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, so we can move on. Got a few things that should be able to move real quickly. Let's see, let me quickly turn my pages here. Some good news. The Weir Gate, first off, 159 Berkshire, nothing happened new on that in the planning board, so that's kind of on hold for the design, the detailed design. The Weir Gates, I received the design submittal and I forwarded it to everybody on the committee to take a look at in case anybody has any questions, concerns, any expertise in it. I have personally reviewed the design. I had 3 questions that I submitted mid-morning to them. They're relatively simple. The areas that I saw that I was a little concerned about, and it's really not a concern, it's I want to make sure that we don't screw up, is the cranks. Is there enough clearance for where the cranks come out to raise and lower the gates between the concrete that's on the top of the box culvert and the face of the box of that concrete? So it's vertical and horizontal. So when you turn it, you don't smash your hand into the concrete. And that didn't have a specific dimension on it. I asked for that. I asked for horizontal and vertical clearance. The other thing was they did not define, I couldn't find it anywhere, the grout, the particular grout that they want used to grout the stainless steel weir gates and water seal them to the concrete structure. That's the way you install them. You bolt them in place, then you pour the grout in to seal it. So I want them to define what specific grout do they want to see in there. I don't know if anybody else found anything. No.
No.
I don't hear anybody shaking their head. Yes. So, okay. So if everything goes well, then once they answer those 3 questions, I can give them a green light to go ahead and start construction. The next piece of good news I've been in direct contact with a gentleman that's at NRCS Amherst. And this has actually been going on now for probably 12, maybe 15 months. And the good news is that he called me the other day and he has been pursuing our dredging plan for Canal Brook and Great Brook. And it actually made it through one of the very key hurdles, which is it within their their charter, does it fall into the right category so that they can take it on? The answer right now, as he sees it, is yes. So he asked me
Wow.
for a very simple piece of paper that reiterates the town's desire to enter into an agreement with them where they design it, they permit it, and they do it.
Nice.
No cost to the town.
Wow.
And
Get it
I
done.
generated
do it.
that document this morning. That's why I couldn't work on minutes. And
Wow.
that is in his hands. Another one will go with Joe Didi's signature on it. And he already has one that has our Senator Markey and Representative Neal's signature on it, co-signed by the town. So they have what they need, saying that there's a definite need and they can proceed. And so now they can go grab the funds and use them for this purpose. And like I said, it will be a design, permit, construct.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
Dick,
And-
was this just Great Brook or Canal as well?
both,
Oh, wow.
both. So at any rate, I thought that was pretty good news.
Yep.
The docks, we're meeting Saturday morning. So those of you who are still volunteering for dock removal, we've got, I believe, 4 from Lake Management, 4, maybe 5, because I think I didn't count myself. 4 from CRC per Michelle told me that. 2 from DPW, they'll come with the loader and an extra guy. And I've already know who that's gonna be. And 3 or 4 of the police divers. So if we have any needs, if we wind up with, like we did last year, where there's an entanglement that we don't know about until we start putting them in, they'll take care of it. And they'll also help us put them in. So we should have enough people, and Karen's gonna be down there, I don't know, 5 or 5:30, whatever it is. And parking, we have to, again, make sure we reverse park. We start in space 15, 14, 13, 12, so that nobody, absolutely nobody is parked straight ahead or in the areas where we have to swing the docks or where we're removing the docks from, So very, very specific parking. And if anybody argues with it, tell them they can either park where they're told or leave. Because just call the police. And the only other thing is when we can set the buoys. I asked Kurt, he was supposed to try and get the boat in today. He was actually going to get in the other day, but it was too windy and cold. And he said, as soon as it calms down a little bit, he says, I'll get it in. So, and Rick Wylot said he's going to set the buoys. And let's see, check. Oh, see, Doc's middle. Oh, that was it. That was all I had on that. Does anybody else have anything? No?
Yep.
If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That was
Deb
Deb.
and I are rushing for who can make the motion.
And who's seconding? I need a
Eric.
second.
Who's
Mike
seconding?
D?
I'll second.
Fine,
Dick,
I can second.
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's fine, whatever.
Whoever you pick.
The vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous.